When most people think of Homer's Odyssey, they picture a highlight reel of ancient Greek action. We imagine a lone warrior battling one-eyed giants, outsmarting witches, and tying himself to the mast of a ship to survive the songs of deadly sirens. But Homer actually hides those monsters in a flashback. The poem itself starts 20 years after Odysseus left for the Trojan War, and it opens on the high seas, but on the reality of an empty throne in Ithaca. Back home, the kingdom is in crisis. Over 100 aristocratic noblemen have occupied the royal estate. They are drinking the king's wine, slaughtering his lifestyle, and pressuring his wife Penelope to marry one of them, leaving her and her son trapped in a paralyzed society. This exposes the core anxiety driving the entire narrative. A soldier can survive a grueling 10-year war abroad, but military victory does not automatically bring order back to the homeland. That fear of a fractured home is a shared human obsession. If we look across the world and place the Odyssey next to the ancient Indian epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, we find the exact same tension. These cultures were deeply concerned with the terrifying work of trying to restore a shattered identity and a broken society. Take how these texts define a hero. Odysseus survives through metis, practical intelligence. He relies on disguise and deception, constantly adapting. When facing a threat, his calculation is always, how can I change my identity or my story to survive this situation? Compare that to Rama in the Ramayana. He is also a displaced king navigating an obstructed journey home, but is defining his strict adherence to Dharma, a deep commitment to duty and moral discipline. When a crisis hits, Rama doesn't look for a clever workaround. His response is to ask, what does my duty require of me right now? He holds that line even when the answer guarantees profound personal suffering. We have two exiled kings trying to get back to their thrones. The Greek tradition elevates the hero who can change his shape to fit a dangerous world. The Indian tradition elevates the hero who maintains his moral shape no matter what the world throws at him. Yet, for all the focus on wandering kings, they aren't the ones holding these worlds together. The true anchors of these ancient households are the women waiting at home. Penelope holds off a violent coup through pure, strategic delay. She promises to pick a new husband once she finishes weaving a burial shroud, but secretly unweaves her progress every single night. She mirrors her husband's cunning, fighting a war of attrition from her loom. Sita's resistance in the Ramayana looks different. Taken captive, she survives through direct moral endurance. She refuses to yield to coercion, holding her ground openly rather than relying on concealed tricks. We see this pattern escalate with Draupadi in the Mahabharata and Helen of Troy. In both traditions, catastrophic international conflicts are directly linked to the bodies, the treatment, and the reputations of women. The physical battlefield full of chariots and spears is entirely secondary. The domestic sphere is the ultimate testing ground for political legitimacy and honor, meaning these female characters are forced to carry the heaviest cultural burdens. When the time finally comes to reclaim that domestic sphere, the heroes can't simply walk through the front door. Odysseus returns to his palace disguised as an elderly beggar to secretly test the loyalty of his staff. A strategy directly echoed by the Pandavas in the Mahabharata, who spend their final year of exile in total concealment. To prove who they really are, they have to pass a physical test of identity. In both the Odyssey and the Ramayana, we see a challenge involving a massive bow. It is a weapon that responds only to the embodied muscle memory knowledge of the true king. Odysseus effortlessly strings his bow, sheds his beggar disguise, and releases 20 years of tension by slaughtering the suitors occupying his dining hall. But a pile of bodies doesn't complete the homecoming. Penelope remains guarded. She forces Odysseus into a final intellectual trap regarding the secret construction of their immovable marriage bed. She proves that genuine restoration requires shared history and trust, not just a display of physical dominance. And even then, the violence has a cost. The morning after the slaughter, the families of the dead suitors arm themselves and march on the palace. Odysseus' private revenge instantly breeds a public civil war. The cycle of retaliation is so destructive that it takes literal divine intervention to stop it. The goddess Athena has to descend from the sky and force a tense, fragile peace upon the island survivors. This is the final lesson these ancient storytellers leave us with. The Mahabharata ends in the grief of a devastating victory. The Ramayana grapples with the tragedy of Sita's post-war suffering, and the Odyssey reveals that surviving the war is merely the prologue. The true agonizing epic is the painstaking work of rebuilding a home.